Alright, should be another draft physics video presentation brought to you by the simulation. Yeah, it's working a little better. Just got to increase the density. I think that's the key to getting even better, and tweaks and all that kind of stuff. But proof of theory anyway has been established. Now just do it in different forms, showing magnets and all the rest of it and blah blah blah. So ways to go yet, but first step, essentially, I would say, yes, this is step one. Proof of principle, blah blah blah. A couple of flaws, like bouncing into things it shouldn't, but anyway, close, very close. So anyway, Pyrrho has made there's just no point. Apparently human beings just can't do this logic thing at all. They can't pay any attention. They can't honestly, again, quote you, put you in context, do any of this stuff. It's all irrational mush, accusations and nonsense that have nothing to do with the truth. Clearly, all I've done on this channel is point out how conventional science is way under evidenced. I've said it over 1,000 times, no doubt, that the evidence is weak. They have drawn these hard conclusions based on incredibly weak evidence, and that the conclusions themselves are so extraordinary that to be based on weak evidence just makes them look like religions. They don't want to hear about any counter theory. They don't want to argue their fundamental conclusions. They just want to keep stating how it's the most proven theory in the history of mankind. Einstein proven right. Einstein blah 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 blah. And when you really examine the evidence in the experiments, the evidence isn't there, and other conclusions are proven by the evidence. So that's the context of this discussion. Clearly, I came into it arguing, hey, you don't have any evidence for this stuff you're making up. And then, through the process of examining the evidence, I arrived at a new theory, 2 + 2 + 2 physics, that simply answers the questions of why things are the way they are, how they function. It unifies physics. It does all of this stuff. So there's two things to argue: the weakness of their theory and the strength of mine. And they don't want to do either one of those. And clearly they both are connected to each other and should be argued as one thing. But regardless, there's no rational argument about the evidence. There's only arguments about them saying we're right and you're wrong. And they don't make any rational arguments. They just say you're a science denier, or they insult your integrity in some way. So what's the point of the conversation? There is none, because you won't have it on any rational foundation. I have no interest in your personal little babble theory that's no better than their personal babble. Okay, so they have Copenhagen and they have many worlds, and you're just making up some other kind of silly interpretation that has no grounding in anything called evidence, or what they, I think he's going to say the word data in this video. The data. What data? So anyway, cite your data. Just the context here. So he has been insanely, rude over the last 8 years or whatever it's been, calling me a science denier, and saying I'm crazy. Real accusations, just pretending that he has some authority to say that shit from the authority of the authorities. And again, citing and whenever he does try to explain something, the explanations are childishly inaccurate, incomplete, not really connected to real experiments and facts. And again, he has answered none of my critiques. He has not shown me the better video explaining how a magnet works than mine. He has not explained how the wrong shaped lens magnifies stuff in space. He's not explained how Einstein, who predicted lots of things, like you wouldn't see a gravitational wave, or you wouldn't see even an Einstein ring, why Einstein was wrong about those things, and we do see them. Why do we see them when they're not supposed to be possible? He's not explained how LIGO invented this idea of matter being converted into bent space, not radiation, not energy, but bent space. Who came up with that theory? Certainly wasn't Einstein's. I could go on and on. The lack of integrity of the Eddington experiment, the the fact that the only thing the evidence shows is that clocks are broken. Okay, especially atomic clocks are broken sort of in a consistent way by velocity. They don't tell time the same when they're moving. Just as I could argue that two magnets wouldn't work if I moved them the speed of light, you could, even half the speed of light and increase the magnets are the distance between them is twice the distance of their thickness. Theoretically, the force that comes off of magnets is moving the speed of light. It's going to have the same problem working, and that two magnets wouldn't work if I move them half the speed of light under those circumstances, because neither change in the field could be interpreted by the other magnet because you'd never see it. He hasn't explained how that's not a fact, how he has some hard evidence that it's not a fact. So, I can go on and on. Why are there two waves in the single slit experiment? Why? Not some mathematical crap that, well, we decided there was a center point, and then when you put a center point in there, there's two waves. That's not an explanation. Who put the center point in? Who decided there's a barrier in the center to make two waves? Where does it come from? Why? Why does a wave break in two going through a single slit? There's no explanation. So anyway, that's the context here. And so now he's expecting me to have some civil conversation with him after he's been so preposterously rude in the past. I could play his clips. Why? Why should I? Why should I care for your input? See, because your input isn't even consistent. I want to argue conventional physics. Now, the obligation in court is that I make accusations as a lawyer, and you can make accusations as a lawyer, but you have to counter each other's accusations. You can't just ignore them. You can't pretend the other guy didn't say it. And that's all you do. So what's the point? There's no give and take here in any honest way. You're preaching some kind of crap, and you're just saying, I'm going to preach you crap. Well, it's all crap. It's not, you don't, like I said, you don't cite a single experiment, a single detail of an experiment. Again, how does a beam splitter work? Why don't you explain to me how a half-silvered mirror, the most popularly used beam splitter, how it's possible that it creates two equal beams when one of the beams is diffracted right from the beginning, that is, it's spreading from the beginning, and the other one doesn't spread until the very end of the experiment. How could they possibly be equal beams when one is spreading through the whole experiment, the other one's a straight line, right? That's not two equal beams, is it? No, it isn't. Anyway, so I'll play this, but it's there's a certain pointlessness to it. Can I adjust the volume, I wonder? Let's see how loud it is.
I don't want to be fighting.
Okay, not good enough. I don't want to be fighting. Well, then quit using fighting words. Quit insulting me and expecting me to say, oh, thank you very much, because I'm not going to say that. Oh, God, amazing. Just amazing. People's expectations. I can insult you. It's okay because I have the authority. We're the authorities. We can insult other people, but they're not allowed to challenge us and insult us back. It's just such horseshit. Alright. Sorry, technical. I was hoping that would work, but it didn't.
No, I like our arguments that we've had in the past that I enjoy. But I don't want to be fighting.
Again, so we're in this for a different thing. I'm not here to enjoy something. I'm not a spectator. I'm fighting a real war. Okay, you're at the cartoon war or something. All of this seems to me to be incredibly relevant, that the human race is full of a bunch of dumbasses who can't seem to do anything with any sort of integrity. That everything is just covered with human graft and horseshit, and their compulsion to cling to something that justifies them individually, or justifies them as a class, or justifies them as a nation. And again, conventional physics as a club, okay, they've all accepted a jargon. They don't want to look bad. They don't want to feel like they're on some weak ground, so they just do this gang warfare crap. And then on the other side, yes, you have the flat earther loop-de-doos who want to create conspiracy theories because they have some notion that the government, had inappropriate sex with them or something, or molested them as a child. The evil government coming for them. Blah 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 blah. Yeah, well, I don't have anything good to say about any of this conversation. None of it's fun. It's all quite goddamn pukable.
And with real animosity and things like that, man.
Yeah, well, frankly, I have real animosity. Like I said, the hardest part is initiating this struggle. Now I'm sort of on the high ground because, frankly, I have compiled a big pile of evidence. And I have a counter theory that works better. So now you can't hurt me. But when I first started, you could. And that's what you did. You did everything you could to make it harder for me to stand up against this fucking authority, this fake emperor. You were just one of his little guards who sat there and poked me with the spear just to remind me that this is all you're going to get from us, is a spear. So, fuck you for that, fucker. I have animosity.
I would be sad if you passed away.
Yeah, well,
I
fuck that.
Don't expect reciprocation.
Well, you're not going to get it.
If I'm a...
I think you're a troll. You troll every subject. Like I said, now the more I've seen of you and how you argue politics and everything else, you're a cheater. All right, so I have nothing good to say about you. You make arguments from which there is no rational and logical continuity of steps. You show nothing. You just make declarations. Let's tax property. That'll work just fine. Even though there's a ton of reasons to know why it can't work just fine. Thorium. Completely unproven that you can do it in any practical way, that you have any device that you can make that makes enough energy to justify the cost.
But that's out there with my binoculars, and I'm watching the wild elephants, and there's one, and he's an interesting elephant, but if I get around him, he tries to stomp me. I'll just give that elephant more room.
Well, again, I'm not here to play elephant. I'm not here to spectate. I'm not here to do any of that stuff, okay? I'm here to win an argument, and I'm confident I have good reason to win it, that it's sort of necessary that the truth be honored somewhere, and it's being dishonored, it's being raped in front of me, and I'm going to do something to protect it. So I'm just not in this game for the same cause.
Because I'm aggravating it. Not because I'm afraid I can't handle myself around an elephant, but...
Again, you keep talking as if we have some common ground. There's no common ground. You're a wooist, okay? You're searching for justifications and rationalizations. You're not searching for the truth. So we don't have anything in common.
You're understanding the animal world. I think you'll get the example I'm trying to make. I mean, it could be two elephants. And, I would love if there was a sense of learning each other's space so that we could have...
Again, the only space I'm interested in is salient, logical arguments. This is a trial, all right? And a person of integrity, me, is in the trial. And I'm saying, when are you going to quit telling the jury fairy stories about the invisible man or about this other mush? Why don't you talk about the actual evidence and the actual experiments and explain how they're conclusive? You keep claiming quantum mechanics is the most proven theory in the history of mankind. No, evolution is the most proven theory in the history of mankind. Right? Not quantum mechanics. It's veiled in, they can't even, the physicists themselves can't even explain the theory, okay? They can't even tell you what quantum mechanics is. They won't give you the same definition. I can go to 100 physicists, I'll get 100 different definitions. I mean, this is just horseshit. And again, I'm just not interested in your personal interpretation, whatever black matter you've made up, okay? I just couldn't care about your little dark this and your dark that and your anti this. They're all little fairy stories. They're not based on anything called evidence. They're based on wish and hope and the need to fix our broken assumptions. You have a bunch of assumptions that are wrong, and you keep correcting for them by inventing fake things that don't exist to fix your problems.
Discussions. But probably not, because, I'm stuck with my perspective, which leads me to my theories. And
So again, it's not about perspective, it's about an understanding of what logic and reasoning is. Logic and reasoning has to take place on common axioms and assumptions about what the hell a truth is and how you just demonstrate one. And the fact is I'm still going to keep saying, if you're telling me that it's a wave and then you compare it to water waves, and I watch you compare it to only part of the water wave spectrum, like you quote mine water waves, you quote mine things. If I see you quote mining, I see you mining for evidence that supports and avoiding evidence that doesn't support, why should I have any confidence that you're a credible person in this interaction, that somehow you're seeking the truth? You're not. You're advocating for a pile of woo.
Interpretations. It is just my system. The only difference between my system and your system, really one.
No, there's about 7 million differences. Mine doesn't have any woo in it.
Your system, in my defense of the establishment in science, is, it's not an absolute endorsement, but I think the process works over time.
Yeah, whatever. The process works over time. Oh, you got plus and minus wrong. The process works over time. We decided it's the speed of light, not the speed of force. Oh, the process works over time. No, the whole point is we invented antiparticles. You're saying the process works. No, I'm saying exactly the opposite. Clearly the process isn't working because you're just building another religion. You're just replacing one religion with another religion. You're not doing science anymore. This isn't science. The Eddington experiment proves that you don't care about science. You still won't admit it's a flawed experiment. And you haven't been able, like I said, we have thousands of technically capable satellites up there with cameras on them, and no one's tried to do the Eddington experiment from space? You're telling me this is realistic? We have the perfect eclipse over North America. None of the technology is put to the task? Please.
You can't just ignore it. If your theory involves criticizing them, then I just am going, oh, well, but no. That's separate from my system, which is also, it's not.
Again, why would I be interested in your system? Why? Is there compelling evidence for it? No. Does it unify physics? No. Can you use your system to draw something on a chalkboard that makes any sense at all? No. Why do I want to hear your crappy bullshit wooey Jesus story? You just made up another Jesus story with no evidence, and you're saying I should find it compellingly interesting. No, it's a compelling distraction. So either defend conventional physics or attack my theory. But those are the only two things I'm interested in. I'm interested in nothing else in the conversation. I'm in it for nothing else. I'm here for no other purpose than to defend my theory and attack theirs. Period.
Endorsed scientifically, but I'm more careful to not violate what the scientists say the data is. I believe.
Okay, the scientists say the data is. We can go and look at the data. We can look at the experiments. They're there. Okay, I played them in my videos. The 1950s, they recorded a lot of things, so you can actually see some experiments being performed. I've pointed out that the radar interference experiment, the exact same results would be predicted by a jamming theory. Not a wave interference theory, a jamming theory. It predicts exactly the same results for the experiments. So there's lots of examples where I've pointed out that the experimental data is not what they say it is. It is what it is. And what it is isn't quote mine. So if you look at the data through your quote mining glasses, then yeah, you can force it to confirm your theory. But if you look at it balanced, like I did in wave theory, for example, well, you'll figure out that the multi-slit experiment is projecting images. So that makes Feynman out of luck. Feynman's theory can't be the right answer because randomizing the photons will not send an image to a location. So random theory, random interpretation, it's dead.
Scientist data. the scientists' interpretations, no, they're not that great at the philosophy side of what it all means. They're better at the math in general.
Well, whatever. This whole philosophy thing, I've already explained how I find the word offensive. Science is a category of philosophy. Okay, the one where we have hard evidence. Philosophy is a discussion of values, things that aren't physically easy to see. You can't just draw a picture of them. Okay, they're concepts. They're subject to a different kind of processing. Okay, so it's like the evidence in a trial. There's this circumstantial motive evidence, and then there's the physical evidence. They're two different things.
The reliable part. And I do believe the data, though. So
again, more crap. I don't disbelieve the data. So he's implying that you can only believe the data, his interpretation of the data, his quote mining of the data, to demonstrate something. So again, I also believe in data. I believe in experiments. I believe in proving something, not claiming something. And I'm claiming you're not doing any of that. You're just making claims, not claims that have been proven, and then you exaggerate the claims. Quantum mechanics is the most proven theory in the history of mankind. How so? Where? Because it predicted No, it didn't predict a damn thing. Information in, information out. If you don't know the probability, you have no predictive power. Your mechanics, your mathematics does not predict anything that you don't have to put into the mathematics in the beginning.
I just get on the side of my perspective, and just like I always have, that video was about, how I think space works.
Right, and again, where did you get any indication? I could care less about Pyrrho's personal interpretation of the data. When I've already claimed, I think you don't even look at the data, frankly. You're just taking people's words for it. All right, we've done it. Do you really think they've seen they can measure with their LIGO instrument 1/10,000th of the width of a proton? Do you think it's realistic for them to claim they've done that when there's no experimental evidence that they've ever tested their machine, that they've ever done any test? It could be 1 billion times less sensitive than that. 1 billion times. It could even be 1 trillion times less sensitive than that. Do they have any experimental data besides saying we did it? Is there any proof besides we did it? No.
And, I feel like you could stick with convincing if you just realize it's not really between us. You're convincing all those subs or people that might see.
Totally uninterested into me, right? Where's there any evidence that I give a fuck about the audience? I want the argument with somebody who wishes to argue honestly, not dishonestly, and with somebody who can do so without insulting my fucking intelligence. I'm not a flat earther. I'm not a religious person. I would like to discuss the fucking evidence.
The video that you make. And between us, we're really just describing our systems because we have a different perspective.
Again, that's not what I'm doing here. The first thing I'm doing is critiquing conventional physics as being the biggest fake in the history of mankind. This is a bigger lie than Jesus and Mohammed. It's a more fake, at least they didn't fake any evidence. There's no evidence in the Bible that was faked. They're just silly stories, right? There's nothing that could be considered to be a complete fraud, okay? But conventional physics is guilty of real fraud in the sense it's claiming hard evidence when the evidence is incredibly weak. The Bell inequality, that requires you to know exactly how every single element of your experiment is working, exactly what's happening, and they don't do any of that. You haven't proven that 2 photons are created at the same exact moment in time, ever, in any interaction in the history of mankind. You haven't proved any of the things you've assumed to exist. And clearly any argument for we've proven there's no hidden variable. See, they're essentially saying there's no variable like a photon travels near the surface of a slit and a photon travels right down the middle of the slits. They're saying it's been proven that that can't be the answer, when no, it hasn't been proven.
Effective, and we're stuck with those. And you don't really change those so much. And if you successfully did, because people are able to galvanize the movements, you wouldn't be converting people like me into people with your...
Again, I'm not interested in converting anybody. I'm interested in making reasoned arguments. I've explained why there's reason to doubt their theories. They claim things, and if you look at the real evidence, you can't justify their claim. That's all. And I'm claiming that they've dismissed theories in the past. 300 years ago, a perfectly sensible pressure from the outside theory was proposed for gravity, and they dismissed it because, it just doesn't work doing certain things. Did they try to figure out why it doesn't work? No. They just assumed. Just as you've assumed that all particles are particles, right? All these equivalency things they want to do. They want to tell you everything's equivalent when, no, everything isn't equivalent. Protons and electrons are different than atoms. Atoms are different than molecules. You can go on and say they're all different manifestations of some elemental functions. But they're different things. And it's a lie to say a Volkswagen's a particle and an electron's a particle. That's just being nonsensical.
Perspective. It would have to be, this is just, again, my theory, not my personal theory, I didn't make it up, but it's Nietzsche's theory.
Again, so you're bringing up another, you don't want hostility in our conversation, and yet you're going to sit there and keep arguing things that I think are off the table. We have no common ground. In my opinion, Nietzsche was an insane lunatic that did a bunch of poetry that was useless mush. Anybody could treat, again, a quote miner, right? Do-gooders fail. Well, not all the time. Okay, yes, because a lot of do-gooders fail because the machine destroys them. Doesn't mean that it's a futile. Because Alexandria was destroyed by the heathens doesn't mean that every rational city that you could ever build is going to be destroyed by the heathens. I mean, these silly conclusions. Well, anyway, so I don't want to talk about fucking Nietzsche. Fuck him.
That, you don't brag on the idea because of that, in this case. But politically incorrect eugenics terminology there. But anyway...
yeah, well, whatever. So you're even pointing out that, he was only fodder for Nazis. Great. What a hero. I mean, just fuck you for bringing this up in this context. Do you think a physicist, I should have to talk about Nietzsche? Nietzsche was a great physicist? No, I don't think so.
What I was trying to say is that I'm stuck with my perspective.
Again, it has nothing to do with what you're stuck in. It has to do with what can you go to trial with. Can you make an argument as a lawyer in defense of conventional physics? Can you make an argument as a lawyer saying my physics is flawed and wrong? Can you make these arguments, or you're just going to make up slanderous crap? Aren't you just like an attorney who says, well, look at that guy. Isn't that all you're saying? He looks guilty to me. Look at those little bent eyes and shit. And, he's got to be guilty, right? Okay, there's no evidence he's guilty, but he looks guilty, right? I mean, that's all I'm seeing you make arguments from. I'm seeing you make arguments from innuendo, not arguments from facts.
And it's evolving on its own. And if you were to galvanize a movement, then it would be...
There's more of this crap. I don't care about galvanizing something. I care about making arguments. That's all there are, is the arguments. The arguments are the gold here. I'm not the gold. My theory isn't even the gold. The fact is, I might be wrong about everything, but I might be right about photons. Right? I've given a pretty detailed explanation of what photons are. I've explained their polarization. I've explained why they create new photons in new locations. That there is no destructive interference. There's just constructive rebuilding of photons. That all seems to me solid as hell. Okay, I really don't think anybody's going to find any way to say, oh no, that's wrong, because I think it is the right answer. But that's what I'm interested. I'm really not interested in whatever this crap is.
People already have feelings. People go, oh my God, this guy says exactly how I feel. It's like he's saying how I feel because they've already grown through whatever that psychological evolution.
Look, anyone rational on Earth should be rather suspect when somebody says something extraordinary. All of conventional physics is now extraordinary physics. It's all woo particles and woo entities, and they're all do a magical, and they don't even, they call them the strange quark, and they call it, and they call it weirdness and bizarreness, and they have, they're sitting here overtly telling you it's silly. So yes, they have the impression that, man, they've always said this shit, but it never made any sense, because it doesn't make any sense. It never made any sense, because the truth is, it doesn't make any sense. But they're asserting it so confidently, just like religion to a little kid. You tell him this silly story. God's watching. God's paying it. You better not violate. And you get them all scared, like, oh, there's something to worry about. And then, if you give him a moment to think about it, though, and then he forces you to explain. Well, why don't you explain a little bit? Well, no, it's just a made-up story, but you really believe it, don't you? We just made it up. Yeah, of course, they made it up 2,000 years ago. These people wearing, rags on their head and shit. Yeah, they made up this fucking story, but we all believe it. And then the kid says, holy shit, I really am. This is a fucking loony bin. I mean, what the fuck? These people will fall for anything. And physics is the same bullshit. Big on story, very little on details and facts.
Process, multiple generational, perhaps, or all the ways it might happen, where they're ready and you're vocalizing something. And so that galvanizes it, because people were feeling that way.
Again, I don't care. I really don't want to persuade somebody who's ill-qualified to know the difference between the truth and a falsehood. It doesn't mean anything to me. I want to have an argument with people capable of arguing. People who know something about the subject. Hello? Do you understand the concept, right? The gravity lens is not shaped like a magnifying lens. It's, in fact, exactly the opposite of a lens that would magnify distant objects. So how the hell can a gravity lens work when it's the exact wrong? It bends the light that needs the least bending the most, and it bends the photons that need the most bending the least. How can that possibly work?
And, maybe you could pick the fruit early and ripen it artificially or something, but basically, I don't see that it's possible, but we could still be compatible, even though you may probably disagree with the way I look at it there. And
I disagree with the integrity of your arguments. I don't think you make arguments that have any integrity. I think you know full well what the evidence is. You know it's not good evidence, and yet you keep pushing it as if it's the most reliable and solid conclusion ever made in the history of mankind. And it's a preposterous and insane exaggeration. And again, you pay no attention to evidence. It's been pointed out to you that the paramecium experiments, for example, that it is by just computer analysis. It's just a routine of movements. 2 left, 1 right. 2 right, 1 left. It's been dissected to be a simple program that runs the paramecium. He has no complex random quantum behavior. No, in fact, he has a very routine behavior. He only has the capacity to do on, off, off. A program list this long. Nothing to it at all. No, ouch. No, I'm in pain. No, I'm struggling too. No, I wish I was. No bullshit like that. No room for any complexity at all. And you keep pretending it's conscious. It wants. It wills. When it can't possibly. Because the program doesn't provide any room for any of that crap. And you'll just keep asserting it, though. See, you don't care about evidence. You just care about your passion for your wooey, shiny city on the bullshit hill. You're just selling some hope of an idea, not an idea.
Face the fact that I have my theory. What good is it to you? well, it's a backdrop, and you think you're demolishing my theory with the machine gun, and that only looks good for your theory. I disagree. I don't want to.
I have no interest in demolishing your theory because your theory has no grounding in anything called evidence. It's just a religion. You've invented a religion. Fine, go ahead, believe in your silly crystal theory or whatever the fuck it is. But you don't have any evidence to defend it.
Demolish your theory, but maybe I inadvertently do with my laser beams that I imagine.
No, you didn't demolish anything. All you did was insult me. You've never done anything else. You never demolished anything.
Scanning the shit out of it. And it's up to people watching to decide for themselves how that works out. That's how I would think it would be okay, and you wouldn't have to take it so personally. But,
Again, I'm not going to defend the fact I could replay your videos. I took personally something that was personal. You made personal accusations regarding my integrity. The integrity of my arguments, the integrity of the evidence, the integrity of all of it. And in my opinion, those were just nothing but lies. Okay, that's all. That's all you have in defense of your crap is your lies. You haven't hit me with anything real.
I know I am too blunt. I should have to be careful if I want to really take credit for being peaceful. I know people take offense when you start acting like, well, that idea is stupid. Obviously, everybody would go, yes. I don't really take offense at that. To me, what I hear is, oh, you think my idea...
I don't care that you're willing to be insulted by people. That's your business. I'm not, okay, frankly. I'll take so much and that's it. And you went way over the line, asshole.
...is stupid. And that could just as easily be because you don't understand it. It could be... Even if I go, maybe my idea is stupid, then I'll just think about my idea. Wait, is this idea stupid? And if you say details of why it's stupid, I'll go, wait, does that? And I'll shine that light on.
There won't be any details, okay? So let's just understand. He won't pay any attention to details. So even when we were talking about the laser experiment, which is the only rational experiment we had, a rational conversation, where we're actually talking about the details and the mechanics of how you could actually do this laser experiment. You know, the laser experiment that's sort of like the spaceship moving, where it would be a speedometer and essentially indicate your speed. And that's the only conversation where there was, but you never accepted some of the facts. I mean, you said, oh yeah, I know laser beams spread, but let's pretend that doesn't mean anything. So what's the point? I mean, you conceded the fact, oh, laser beams diverge over distance. That's a problem, right? But you can't really measure something inside a spread in distance, right? You're trying to measure something right here from its center. And if it's spreading over that center, you can't possibly measure the difference then. There's too much noise in your signal. I mean, it's like seeing the Einstein rings or the Newton's rings, okay, when with the Argo spot. The idea that you put a little cylinder in front of a light, and the fact is it's making Newton's rings, but you can't see any of them because there's so few photons that are doing it relative to the light source. And the only way you can do the experiment where you can actually see the rings is you have to confine the light source, so you have to create another impediment to narrow how much light is going across the surface so it isn't drowned out, kind of thing. And the point is, though, is that, yes, the spot makes sense because all the photons hit one spot. And so you can see that one spot. But the rest of the rings are all there. You just can't see them because they're spread over too much surface.
Right? And guess what? Usually I don't end up thinking it's stupid. And I acknowledge it might be stupid and I'm just stuck. I'm just stubborn. But I don't think so because sometimes I do look at an idea and I...
You're rude and lazy are my arguments. Okay, so those are the arguments. That your examination of details and facts is terrible. And that you are a quote miner. A horrible quote miner.
Realize it was stupid. Sometimes they were pretty important ideas to me. Like I thought pi was some sort of weird, not really a number because it had infinite digits until Casino McCool on YouTube.
You've repeated this like 6 times, and I really don't understand why. Well, there's no point. I mean, I've pointed out to you that pi has to include all circles in existence. So obviously it can't be one number because it has to include all possible circles, and especially the smallest circle. The one that's made out of at least little bits of straight line. So that's the problem with pi. Yes, to get to that one, you have to go a lot of zeros to get to the Planck pi. So there's a Planck pi, and so you won't know the answer to it till you make a Planck number, a number that has all those zeros.
Explain to me directly that pi is just as much a number as anything else. The fact that we can't put it in a finite number of digits is a problem with our numeric system, and in reality, because pi is the ratio between the circle and the square, it's arguably more real of a number than 2, which is arbitrary. 2 is 2 what?
No, that's just silly. I mean, obviously, the 2 is the consistent, hard, detailed thing that has 2 is right there in front of you. It's a 2. There's no confusion. Not 2 what? 2 anything. It doesn't matter. All 2's work. All pi's don't. See, all circles can't be represented by pi, but all 2's can be represented by 2. You're just getting it backwards again.
Oh, and twice as many as 2 and 4. These numbers are interchangeable and scalable and translatable to each other in a way that pi isn't. Pi is itself. You can't multiply it by something and turn it into e unless pi is in the thing you're multiplying it.
That doesn't make any sense. Pi is, again, just an arbitrary constant. Wrong thing to say. A constant that's a generalization. You don't think that g could go as long as pi? It's just that we don't have anything specific to measure it by. But g could have all these extra digits too. But we can't do tiny, tiny little g experiments.
Like you can multiply it.
Like the speed of light could keep going. Lots of digits in that too.
Over by e over pi, of course, but you've got an extra cheated. Okay, see, I'm forgetting again.
Yes, you're being totally distracted and going off on tangents, and none of the tangents will ever be the questions I've asked.
This I want to be very specific because this is potentially difficult and probably can't continue. And if I think I'm being funny, probably that's usually often I've noticed where people take things the wrong way. Okay, so hopefully...
you have a funny moment somewhere? Oh, yeah. I guess I've taken it the wrong way. Your jokes suck.
Because I'm going to put this up no matter what, so I'm not going to... Hopefully I didn't, set things off there to where I'm hoping to be able to watch the reply, and we don't have to continue on necessarily, because I don't think this is the kind of feedback you want, I guess, but I don't know exactly why that is.
I want something that has to do with how my pictures I've drawn are wrong. That's what I want. I want some sort of detail that explains how I'm wrong to say that photons are just made out of discrete bits of crap, and it's not some double wavy crap in some made-up magical field. Some kind of real argument about how I'm wrong, how what I'm saying can't be true.
Because what I offer basically is that I try to memorize your idea. I'm an idea collector. It means that...
Whatever the hell that means. Oh yeah, I collect a bunch of physics theories in no detail at all. And, who could do that, right? I mean, it's like memorizing a bunch of chess strategies or something. I mean, the theories are not that simple that you can just sit there. Oh yeah, I memorized that theory. Yeah, memorized it. The entire theory. Yeah, I have it all.
Treating you like a specimen, but it means I value your ideas just because they exist, and if they hold together at all, even if there's gaps and logical flaws, and I criticize them like that, I find them very interesting, and it's not hard to explain. It's just like I like science fiction.
No, you're just debunking and dismissing. Okay, again, quote minds, distortions, perversions, misparaphrases. You don't get the theory right, and then you debunk a straw man. These are all horrible wastes of my time. They're not constructive argument. They're not useful. Your claims are, again, all exaggerated or felonious. That's all you provide. You don't ever get to the fact that, oh yeah, well, the conventional theory is, just as unproven as yours because we have a limited amount of evidence. And yes, I can't argue that your theory doesn't work if I'm going to be honest, but you're not honest. Phone was discharging. Anyway.
There's one science fiction author, Greg Egan, I read. He just makes up worlds with their own physics. And he tells his story in this world with weird physics and everything's, weird for that reason.
Right, so you would know I would absolutely hate that crap, right? Like we'd have enough bullshit thinking in the world. We don't need more people thinking bullshit.
And he's not trying to say that, this is how it really is. I'm sneaking in a book. No, he just likes to create alternate physics and then put that in his science fiction. And so if I like that, of course, why I wouldn't like other people's ideas that I think are fiction, but they're theories.
So again, I have no interest. I don't care what you think. I care what you can argue, and you can't argue with shit.
You think mine is a fiction or whatever. And I wouldn't really call, the rope theory, which I think is somewhat ridiculous. I wouldn't call it fiction exactly. It's technical fiction. But
well, I mean, it's like every other theory. You have to say, well, why doesn't it work? And so you have to find little places. So you can see a big gap in it when it comes to magnetism, right? Because now the ropes are jumping. It's jumping ropes. And somehow we're supposed to believe that ropes doing this and ropes doing this somehow create repulsion and attraction, when no, they don't. And besides the fact that they don't create any strong repulsion or attraction, where'd the energy come from to swing these ropes all over the fucking place? So they're debunked as far as I'm concerned. I mean, it's got huge gaps in it. I mean, why don't the ropes get tangled? Blah, blah, blah. How could you possibly? The density of rope would be more than the density of the matter. There would be more rope in the universe than there is electrons and protons. It just doesn't make any sense.
I think it's more fair to say it's a theory that I don't think is apt, right? It's a theory that isn't apt.
It recognizes the simple truth that so many value it has. This is about push and pull. And you just choose which one you think is more rational, right? If you do any kind of deductive reasoning, you can figure out that push is more elemental than a pull. So then you're stuck with a push universe. So go ahead and explain where the push is coming from, and then you'll start getting right answers.
And, okay, so see if I can go through this and not take too long. It's late. I decided I'd make a video. Because I worked late, but it wasn't because I worked a lot today. I worked an ordinary amount of time, but I ended up taking these breaks. Just there's a little COVID stress here where sometimes it's been hard to concentrate during that.
There's only like 8 people with the virus in Maine or something. 8? Yeah.
Afternoon, I need to do a chunk of that. But, which is hard because I have to be around in case I get pinged or meetings or anything. So it's like a long work day, but I'm reading up on COVID stats or whatever. Okay. Now, in terms of the not fighting approach, which people are going to make fun of me for, no, I know I'll say something that'll make you rage. And it's not funny, it's nervous laughter. I'd rather you didn't, because to me, stuff's just pretty real, right? I don't want to disvalue anything if I can help it. And
I think there's lots to be disvalued. Cheating, stealing, falsifying claims, making claims we done it when you don't really have any evidence you've done anything. All of that's bad behavior.
Bluntness and my sense of humor and certain aspects that I'm never going to give up about not lying. I don't tell other people things to make them. I don't alter the truth.
Oh, says you. Right. I don't alter the truth. I'm a truth seeker and a truth speaker. No, you're a propagandist. You're a shyster lawyer. Just trying to distract. Trying to take the focus off the fact that you don't have any evidence on the table.
To say things to make people feel good, but I would prefer to make people feel good, and often when I do make a joke.
Yes, yeah. I would like to be able to tell you you're a retarded fucknut without offending you, but that's not possible, is it? Oh, no, it's not. So, what is this mush?
I think it's like good-hearted, and everybody's going to feel good if you don't. That's like everybody's problem with humor, but especially I think
whatever that
philosophy types especially can really.
I've stopped listening. I'm totally not interested.
It can seem hurtful. A joke that isn't at all normally an insult or whatever. Just subtle. I don't know why it is that way, but I admit that that's going on. So in me, and I'm 52. I'm not sure how much that will change, but I don't think it's a good excuse to be upset. But the point is, I've been giving you space, and here we are talking to each other. And to me, this is like I'm gunning up next to the elephant, and that's okay. And I don't want to have to stun the elephant with the tranquilizer to save myself from being stomped or anything. That's not my...
Well, will you be stomped by, exactly? Me pointing out how what you just said is a pile of shit? What you just claimed has no evidence? Was that my stomping? you know, you just made an accusation that I violated some rules of integrity where I didn't violate them. You don't know the evidence. You don't. No, none of that's true.
My idea is, but I'm going to go through the stuff. I thought your video actually started out with some stuff that is kind of what I've been talking about.
Sorry, I mean, making these comparisons when yours is entirely full of a bunch of woo particles and mine is not. 2 plus 2 plus 2 physics. Now, if you want to say you have 1 plus 1 physics, okay, I'm listening. Or even 3 plus 3 physics, and I'm listening. But yours is, 679 times 10 to the 58th times, whatever. You get it. Big pile of woo physics.
A little bit now, but also I think you do understand kind of what I'm getting at. That doesn't mean you can see that I'm right, obviously. And sometimes this is one thing I was going to say too, as far as you think I give concessions and take them back, but what it really is things like I concede that the tractor beam problem is intractable, and also the repulsion problem, because in the quantum mechanics thing, you also magnetism goes both ways, and yet if you don't have repulsion, then things are actually hitting together. But since these are pure energy and whatnot, and they don't, it doesn't seem like to me like that's particularly likely either. Like they're knocking into each other. Of course, it does to most people and stuff, but
the point is it takes energy to make energy. You can only steal it from some other battery. All right. If you want to try to make a profit, you have to steal it from something that has more of it already in it. It already has the imbalance. If you have to make the imbalance, it's going to cost you a lot to make the imbalance. Okay, so imbalance has to come from an imbalance engine. That means in generating imbalance means you have to put energy in to create the imbalance, and that's just the way it is. So yes, you want to make a gravity gun, you're going to have to involve an awful lot of mass to do it, because the only way you can make it is to manipulate mass. So until you can manipulate a whole planet in your little gun, you're in big fucking trouble.
The point is that when I concede a point like the tractor beam problem is a big problem, I then use it in my system. The way it interacts with everything else leads still to a different interpretation, right? So I'm not taking.
Yes, well, the tractor beam just sort of points out the difficulty. Pushing something away would be really easy, because that's the elemental function. All you have to make imbalance out of is pushing shit. The push is what makes the pull. So the complex thing to make is the pull. So that's your problem. Making the push is easy. Making the pull is difficult.
Taking it back. Sometimes I might change my mind, but I think most of these days we're talking more like that. And with the water metaphor, I'm not trying to explain why water works the way it is. I'm assuming everybody. I'm using water as a source metaphor.
Well, you're not assuming any of that, because again, the description doesn't have in it any explanation of the fact that there's real physical causes to why water behaves the way it does. And the causes are related to the fact that the water molecules are sticking to each other and that they stick to surfaces. And without those facts, water waves don't work anymore. If I make it sand, the sand won't do the same thing water molecules do. Just a fact. So your ether has to have some kind of element in it that's comparable to the water molecule. Water molecules adhere to each other because they're complex things, not because they're simple things. So again, you're out of luck, in my opinion. Photons that are stuck to each other is like baby talk.
Because part of my point, and I have videos that are 10 years old trying to make this point, is that it's not magic waves. I don't understand very much why it seems like. So I watch Theoria. Not every video of them, though I did for a while, but David DeHilster, I don't know what's going on with him. He hasn't been coming up, but maybe I should click on his channel. But because
he moved, and all that implies. Moving sucks. Ugh.
watching a lot of his. I watched Bill Gates before you even started doing physics.
So did I. So what?
He was ex-CIA thing. Interesting. And Nick Harvey, The Artist Theory of Time. And I used to watch the guy, I forget, thought I was a government agent. But he had a scientific system. And who else? There's others. And
Again, who cares? I don't care. What you didn't do was think about things like beam splitters and how they work and how the theory is fundamentally impossible. That it's theoretically can't produce two equal beams. A half-silvered mirror theoretically can't work. Can't fit the claims made. The claims don't appreciate the facts.
Shit as well. And a lot of them, have this idea that waves is just, but water waves, we've been watching water waves, even in my...
Again, I don't want to keep arguing something for which I have no use. I say there's no evidence that there's any wave functions at all that aren't just completely incidental, completely just accidentally emergent. We send the soldiers out, they are in a pattern of waves, but it has nothing to do with how we sent them. It's just something that emerges out of the process of firing the gun. The individual bullets are still individual bullets. They function as individual bullets. And until you get that part, you're not getting any part of this at all. The wave is irrelevant. The frequency is relevant. The frequency between bullets, not frequency between waves.
An animal, if a dog is looking at the water and sees ripples on the water, knows that it means something's in the water. And at least I think the animals can know that. And certainly we have been seeing that for millions of years.
Again, so this whole crap, you keep arguing that somehow I have some intuitive reason, like there's some fundamental reason why I have to think light is a wave. No, people thousands of years ago drew the little lines coming off of the sun. They knew what rays were. I'm a rayist. You're a wavist, okay? And from intuition, or just from looking at things, I can't prove they're rays, and you can't prove they're waves, and that's a fact. There's no intuitional, obligation at all in the common evidence, the easily extracted evidence, to prove your wave theory any more than my ray theory. And so you go back to Newton and Huygens and these different arguments. I mean, Newton was obviously a rayist, and Huygens was a wavist. And you can go through this whole argument through the 1800s and then the 1900s, where you decided they were waves. You said, there's wave-particle duality, but you decided they were waves. And you just decided it. You didn't never prove the case. So it's still, in my opinion, an argument. And I'm saying that if you really analyze the evidence, photons traveling billions of light years through space and all that crap, and the whole energy mechanics of it, there's no way the photon is spread over the whole universe. None of that crap's happening. It's a discrete thing, traveling discrete paths. It can always be traced as a straight line, just like charge. The lines of force are always straight line. There are no bent lines in the reality. I've already been over this shit.
Hominid ape experience, and even, we know what waves are. They're not. So, I don't think...
That's a pile of crap. Again, you don't know what waves are. There are no waves in sand. There, I just keep making the argument. You keep saying everything waves. No, everything doesn't wave. Everything isn't molecular water. Everything isn't all these things you're claiming. So I'm saying no, there's no reason. I don't have to make everything into ocean waves because you love the ocean. That's your business. I don't prefer, I think it's nice, but no, I don't think it's the core meaning of the universe is found in looking at water waves. It's not there. The core meaning is in the simple Newtonian notion that force has to be communicated between objects, things. There's things in the universe and they hit each other. The end. I don't have to go any further, and I don't have to doubt it for any reason. There's no evidence proving otherwise.
I don't think it's particularly fair to say it's woo-woo. I think it's so fundamental that it makes sense that there's the particle idea, which is also ancient and fundamental and easy to understand because it's a stone, right? Little bits of stone, tiny bit of sand.
And my point is it works. You claim it doesn't work. I claim it does. And I've shown mechanisms of how it works. The drag is a real thing, but that things can overcome the drag quite simply. That there are mechanisms that make it work. It's just a fact. You claim it's been dismissed and we've proven it wrong because we talked about running in the rain or some other kind of crap. Your proof sucks. It's completely underproven to be a fact, and yet you've just decided you've chosen your flat earth, and now you're going to force the evidence to fit your theory. That's all you're doing.
But water waves also, and other wave phenomena that we've discovered since water waves, other atmospheric phenomena, you can see the ripples in the sand, which I would say are kind of
Again, a physicist should be saying all of that's an illusion. Okay, that's something emerging out of the fundamental process. The fundamental process is not waving. Waves are an emergent function, not an elemental function.
Wave, and you can argue for that, I think, and sound and light does have wave properties.
Again, so like I need this pointed out to me. There's wave properties. So what? Why should I think it's elemental, and why should I think the fundamental small universe works on wave theory? It doesn't need to. I don't need it. So why would I force it to be there? Why would I force there to be an ocean when I don't need it?
So the water metaphor is like the source for where we understand, like your little bits that you have are like tiny particles, but they're not like stones and stuff because they have this shooting along at super speeds and stuff, right?
Some more nonsense. Yeah, it's really simple. Two forces moving the speed of light. Two material bits that interpret those forces inversely. There. Done.
So the stones are a metaphor for a concrete, your favorite idea of concrete. To me, I like that idea, but when I piece it together, the problem is that things aren't connected to each other like the way we see.
So again, more nonsense. Obviously, the matter bits, the electron and proton, are connected to each other by how many stones are hitting them. And then they interpret the stones inversely in terms of their momentum. They have an inverse momentum reaction to interpreting a stone hit. You hit them with a cupcake, they say thank you. You hit them with a rock, they run away. Well, one of them thinks a cupcake is a rock, and a rock is a cupcake, and vice versa. And that's the difference. There, done. Physics is complete.
So even more than that we see the wave phenomena, it's the fact that with something like the tractor problem.
I'm not going to argue this. We see the wave phenomena. Well, you don't see it in any of the things where you're claiming it to be. You don't see it. You're claiming its existence, but there's no evidence of your wooey wave. There's evidence of rays.
What you need is space to be connected to its neighbors. So
just look, a laser beam. Is there evidence of a wave somewhere in there? No, there's evidence of a bunch of little bits flying out of the damn thing.
if you call that threads, because I was calling it fabric, if you call it whatever you want to call it, basically the point is that you can have that it's a medium because it can be deformed, right? If you have space, whatever kind of space you think it is, if space can be deformed by
no, whatever kind of space it is. No, you can't deform nothing. So fuck you. My premise is space is a word. It's a word for nothing, nothing, nothing. Not a something, a nothing. You don't deform it, you don't stretch it, you don't build on it, you don't do any of that kind of crap. It doesn't have any fucking structure. It's an absolute nothing. And the difference that you can have in the universe is something called a something. That is something that's not nothing. Period.
something. And space is connected to its neighbor. The points in space, the so-called points, the areas, are connected to each other so that if I do something here, it affects its neighbor, the locality that we have.
Yes, it affects its neighbor by magical ESP force. Okay, I'm saying that's a very incomplete, superficial, made-up explanation. It's an invisible man explanation. You haven't explained the force at all. You haven't explained the communication. I am explaining it. Why does it take this? Why does your stuff move the speed of light? I mean, why does this ESP slow down? Why is it not instantaneous? All of these questions can be asked. I can explain why mine's not instantaneous because it's obeying the rational force laws that no something can move to different locations in nothing. Can't move to a different location without it taking some time.
And space can deform, then it could be a medium for energy. Just like the water waves are water, but there's also extra thing besides the water, which is the energy that's going on.
So again, this is just such a general conversation I'm totally uninterested in. I want to talk about the evidence on the table. I don't want to talk about your invisible man theory or your theory that, well, a bunch of South Americans were conspired and they decided to cut her head off. I don't want to hear your made-up crap story for which there's no evidence.
Along in that wave. Okay? And that's the metaphor that feels solid to me, because I think a water medium is fine. And sure, sound waves don't go in the vacuum of space, but electromagnetic waves do. Now, when we talk about...
So again, electromagnetic. What's the electrical? What's the magnetic? They're separate fields. It doesn't make any sense. So, sorry, it doesn't make any sense to me. You're just making up invisible, fake communicating devices. Fake fields of stuff. Of what?
Photons being a single particle, to me that's more suspicious. Because, as you point out, we never see photons.
Amazing.
We see specks on a photographic...
Yeah, that's right. We see specks. We see clumps. We don't see waves. We don't see it land everywhere. We don't see it spread all over the fucking goddamn universe. We see it hit a tiny, discrete location.
Paper. Okay, so a wave could hit that and cause that speck. Just like if a soap bubble was coming out and hit...
So waves don't do that, right? Even water waves don't do that. Water waves either are going agitated or not agitated, agitated or not agitated. That is, they're going plus and minus, or they're going nothing, plus and minus. So there's none of this. Waves aren't a good comparison at all, because they don't do what you're claiming.
Hit it, then it would pop the soap bubble, leave a mark right there. So I'm not saying I know exactly how that is, but again, you're allowed to have a theory. Even though you thought it was right years and years ago, you've also evolved it, and so it's evolved, it's changed. Those changes are additions, but still, exactly, everybody is...
Oh, yeah, that's right. I spent some time doing some research, and you found the obvious flaws in their evidence and their interpretation of the evidence, and I found that it's really easy, almost, to figure out what a magnet is. A magnet's a filter. It's not a magical source of repulsion and attraction. It's just filtering the energy that already exists. Yeah, a simple explanation, and one that actually works, versus their complicated explanation that doesn't make any sense at all. The virtual photon conveys pull momentum. It does?
Allowed to have additions, and you said it was just me making my own system right. I want all the rights of a dissonant scientist. I'm trying to make my system entirely compatible with modern physics.
Well, no, that's not what dissonant scientists are. Dissonant scientists are, by vast majority, compulsive liars. They prove their case with just as huge exaggerations as conventional physics. Quote mine the evidence all over the place. Most dissonants are despicable characters. Just like most people who are anti-government for dubious reasons.
And all I'm adding is the philosophical interpretation. I'm doing natural philosophy using other people's data with my own interpretations. But, obviously inspired and no doubt even subconsciously influenced by all the interpretations, I received that we all received as well.
Yeah, that's right. You've all been telling fairy stories forever. Everybody does this fairy story, happily ever after crapola, and it's all a bunch of crap. A bunch of 3 bear, 4 pig, 15 mice bullshit stories. You're all living in the 3-acre wood, fishing for sticks.
For various sources, your family, originally in school and everybody that you learn your ideas about science from. But not everyone's a conscious choice. So the idea that I'm presenting, I think you get the basics of it.
No, I don't get any basic of it at all. It makes no sense. The thing goes to all these locations, and that, oh no, I decided I want to go here, and I'll just take back all the energy I expended going to all those other places. What's the get? Bullshit.
Because for one, you see how it's a pressure idea, right? So if I'm in a very thin...
It's not a pressure idea in any sensible way. Your force fields, okay, are not automatically always on or always off. It doesn't make any sense. You're saying that a bunch of somehow pressure is being created, yet it has no function. It has no way of getting from point A to point B in any kind of coherent manner. Where mind clearly does it in the most sensible way there is, which is, yes, everything moves in a straight line. But then you'll claim that, well, no, my wave mechanics always converts into a straight line. I mean, amazing. Well, then why do I need any of it? Why don't I just make the straight line? Why do I need to waste my time making waves when the story is a straight line? Again, the spirograph thing, the string thing, right? I put a string between point A and point B, and then I take a pencil and I push on the string and make a line. Try to make a line. What do I get? I get a curve. It's two straight pieces of string. Two straight lines are making the curve. The elemental function is a straight line. There are no curves. That's an illusion.
And you can call it fabric when it's 3D. And foam is difficult because there's quantum foam. That means different things. But it's a rubber.
So again, I don't need any of this. My BBs do the job. I fill a box full of little BBs that have perpetual energy and just keep bouncing. And no matter what I throw in that box, I'm going to get physics out of it. I'm going to get all I need to explain. As long as I make two BBs and I make two kinds of stuff I put in that inversely reacts, I already answered all the questions. I don't need any of your crap. I am completely done. Okay, in the sense that the evidence is now conclusive. Evolution is now proven. All right, you're saying, oh no, you need more. Oh, you just have genetics. You need to have geology, and you need this. And I'm just saying there's no real experiment that contradicts a damn thing I'm saying. Not one simple, real experiment is inconsistent with my theory. So in my opinion, I've completed my task. I don't need your bizarre theory. I have a much simpler one that works.
It's a whatever kind, but it's very thin, obviously. The point is that since it can be deformed in my model, energy can go through it. And the issue is, if there's so much energy that it can't deform fast enough, what happens?
All right, so he's just doing his theory again. So he really doesn't want to talk about magnetism, electricity, how they function, any physical part of physics. He doesn't want to take one section of physics, relativity, electrodynamics, gravity. Doesn't want to take any specific function and talk about it. He just wants to talk about some ambiguous, mushy overview he has of how it's a woo-universe. And yeah, as stated, I have no interest in debating your theory. Either defend conventional theory or attack my theory. But everything else is quite irrelevant to me. All right. I'll end it here just because I don't want to push my luck. Oh, yeah, I'm already pushing it. So get out of here before anything crashes. So yeah, if there's anything else in the rest, I'll deal with it, but not for this video. And there's other videos I want to make, frankly, physics videos instead of this mush. Okay, till next time and such. Animation. Interesting.